Rojo. My name is Piers Handling. Thank you. Yes. Sorry, the pronunciation. Rojo. My name is Piers Handling, Director and CEO of Tiff, and I hope you're all having a very wonderful festival and seeing a lot of very good films. To begin with, we'd like to acknowledge that tonight's event is taking place on the treaty territory of the Mississaugas of New Credit and the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and the Huron-Wendat. We're very grateful to have the opportunity to work in the community. This film is eligible for the Toronto Platform Prize, presented by Air France, and it's also eligible for the Grolsch People's Choice Award. Please vote for the People's Choice Award. As you know, it's a very important award at tiff.net/vote. We'd like to thank Luxbox for providing us with this film, and also INCAA for their generous support. This is Benjamin's third feature film, after making a couple of films this decade, History of Fear and The Movement, but it's his first trip, as I said, to TIFF. Over the last few decades, Argentinian cinema has dealt with the so-called period of the dirty wars and the disappeared, the era in the late 70s and early 80s when a military dictatorship ran the country. Obviously, starting with Official Story, there's been some very, very famous films that are being made. Night of the Pencils, Secret in Their Eyes, Olympic Garage. And Rojo joins this illustrious list as, I think, one of the most intelligent depictions of this very, very troubled period. And what is so distinctive about the film is its approach to the subject matter, which I can only characterize as being surprising. Indeed, from the very first moment, this film somehow defied all of the expectations I had around it. I found it absolutely hypnotizing when I saw it. It features a superb performance by Dario Grandinetti in the central role, and an equally compelling Alfredo Castro as the detective. Please join me in welcoming the director of the film, Benjamin Neistat.
Hi, thanks a lot for showing up tonight. I'm really excited. We have worked very hard for longer than 5 years in this project, so we're a little bit nervous. I'm not very keen on talking prior to screening, so I'm just gonna ask you for a big round of applause for Alfredo Castro, one of the lead characters who is here present. And we have a bunch of producers who really worked very hard for this film to be possible, and they're here, so please join me in a round of applause for them. Barbara, Federico, Rachel, and Emmanuel. So I hope that the film does something to you, and we look forward to maybe having a little Q&A afterwards. And thanks a lot again for showing up. Thanks, Pierre, for having us here, of course. Yeah.
So that was a very powerful film. Benjamin, I know that you wrote, and I'm obviously directed the film, but you also wrote the script. And just can you tell us just a little bit about the background? It's an obviously original story based on some historical fact. If you can talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Hello. Thanks for staying. I thought everybody would have been out by now. Yeah. Woo. So thanks a lot. So there's many layers of work behind the script. I have to say, first one is I really wanted to do something about the 70s in Argentina, and particularly about the fact that there's a lot of films that deal with that particular and terrible period of history, but not many focus on the factor of the middle class's complicity with everything that was happening. In terms of the political terror from the state and so on. So that was, I guess, the very first idea. Then again, I'm a very big fan of the films from the 70s, the thrillers such as A Conversation from Coppola or Sidney Lumet's films from the 70s. And I also wanted to try to work within that visual grammatic, so to say, and try to do something genre driven, so to say. Of course, it's more of an experiment. Now I just saw it and I'm not sure what it is, but that was what I was aiming at, Yeah.
So this is your first public screening
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that with
Okay.
us.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Alfredo, for being here.
And Alfredo, you often, I mean, I've seen you in a lot of films from Chile, and and often dealing with that time also in Chilean history as well. And how did Benjamin approach you about the character to work on this film?
Hello. I do speak English, but I prefer to a translator because I really think the film is so intelligent, it's so brilliant, clever. So I don't have the words to express myself
En
well.
español.
Em, Conocí el guión, pensé que el guión era tan bien escrito que no había que moverle ni una coma. Benjamín fue a Chile, leímos. Y nos encantamos, a mí me encantó, pienso que es un guión maravilloso y la idea fue magnífica y me involucré en el proyecto profundamente, sí, lo agradezco mucho. Yo no había visto la película, primera vez que la veo y estoy profundamente impactado y emocionado porque en Chile también hubo un golpe militar muy crudo y ahora hace pocos años se está hablando de los cómplices pasivos de estos golpes militares. Y creo que es un tema importantísimo a tratar, ¿no? Cómo el mundo civil colaboró con los crímenes, con la desaparición de personas en nuestros países.
So from the moment I saw the script, I loved it. I didn't think we needed to change a comma in the script. It was great. Benjamin came to Chile and we read the script together, and I loved it. I was astonished of how great an idea it was. So I got really involved in the creation of this film, and I was thankful to be involved in it. I hadn't seen the film before now, and I am impressed of how good it is. In Chile, we also had a military regime, and now we're only now being able to see what really happened and how the civilians got involved in the how people disappeared.
Yeah, and that complicity. So that's one of the things about your character, that it's you're hoping that he's going to come and find justice, and he's equally complicit. And how did you work that character together?
Actually, there were some references. I guess the main one for me, I didn't mention that many times to him, but for me, the main one was Colombo, the Peter Falk detective, which I grew up watching Colombo. I was a very big fan as a kid. And the costume for him and then something in his walk. Well, I tried to get him there, but without telling him too many times about Colombo, because I thought it would be a reference to freak out about. Then again, Alfredo is a genius. He's one of the best actors in Latin America, and that makes it so easy. You just have to go to the set, and he does the rest. It really happens that way. So it was really easy. Yeah.
No, it's so nice to have you here because you've been in so many of the essential films from Latin America, and it's really.
I've done a lot of comedy in television. Yes. But not in my films. I mean, so it was a sort of to try to discover lo gracioso, ¿no? del personaje. Este doble vínculo de ser un colaborador con el régimen y a la misma vez dejar libre a este hombre. Es poco ético, ¿no? Un hombre que va a la iglesia, que reza, y hay muchos casos como ese.
So it was a matter of discovering humor in this character. And there is this two sides to the character. There's the cooperation with the regime, and on the other side, we saw how he let him go and how he didn't punish him for his crime. So it is this non-ethical part of it. He goes to church, he prays, he pretends he's a Christian, and then he goes and does that.
anyway, I don't like to moralize the characters of being critical with my characters. I just went on with him.
We have some time to take some questions from the audience. I see one right here. Go ahead.
So, Ben, with your films, you have kind of a keen interest in the history of Argentina and bringing that on the screen and often finding ways visually to represent that time period as best as you can with a fairly young medium film. But I'm wondering sort of what is your motivation to go back into the past and bring those stories into the present?
So the question is about Benjamin's interest in bringing the past into the present. Like he's very interested in the history of Argentina.
Yeah, frankly, I'm very unsettled by the present in Argentina, and I think that is the main reason why I go backwards to trying to understand and make a point of the things that we are witnessing today. So I don't know if that makes sense for you, but it's a way to like a key to open. History is like a key to open and to make reason of whatever's surrounding us. I get in Argentina as in anywhere else, I guess. Also, as I was telling this morning to somebody, when you do a period, this is the second period film I've done. And it's really amazing to walk into a set, when the props are right and the costumes and everybody, and it's like time traveling or the closest thing to it, and it's such a powerful experience, and it's inspiring, and it's about I guess it's one of the most amazing things about filmmaking, that it allows you to go around to different universes, and there's something appealing about that as well.
Sí, claro que sí.
Que para mí es un orgullo muy grande, que me entusiasma y me hace pensar en un futuro cuando veo a jóvenes como Benjamín y muchos de su generación pensar el pasado y criticarlo para que nunca más vuelva a suceder los horrores que sucedieron en nuestro país.
So for me personally, I think I'm very, very proud and enthusiastic to work with people like Benjamin, who look young people like Benjamin, who think about the future, and they are very critical about the past, because this means that in the future we're not going to see all the horrors that we lived in the past.
We had a question. Okay, we've got a couple on this. So I'll get you, and then I'll get to you next, and I'll look at the top after. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Yes. You.
Bueno, cada aspecto de una película es libre de interpretación, pero ese aspecto de los cowboys de Estados Unidos, ahí en Argentina, yo lo vi como el gobierno de Estados Unidos también siendo cómplice de lo que pasó en Argentina, en Chile, en muchos países. El hecho de que se intercambiaron regalos, lo vi como, o sea, uno dándose la mano al otro, uno se ayuda y solo se ayudamos. El hecho de que el cowboy le dio ¿cómo se llama? Látigo. Látigo es como diciendo Estados Unidos dándole armas a estos gobiernos para mantener a la gente oprimida, ¿no? No es una pregunta, pero eso así lo vi yo.
Right. I'll just do a brief. The question is about the American cowboys that are in the film. Like, he's saying that it's open to interpretation, but he saw it as a way of showing the complicity of the U.S. with what was going on in Latin America. Do you want to comment on that, or? Sure. About the cowboy sequence, actually, there's a story behind it, because as you said, of course, it makes symbolic sense. But then again, from the start, it was through the historic research that I did prior to writing the script that I came out with this footage, film footage from a TV show in which that actually happened, that some actual American cowboys were touring around Argentina, and they were received by a federal interventor. That's the truth, actually, as
incredible as it seems. But then again, of course, I know I'm very much aware that if I put that in a film, it starts becoming symbolic, and you're absolutely right that there was a full complicity of the U.S. through the Condor Plan to get together all these dictatorships, and the CIA helping, and people know about this, of course, and I thought it was right to comment that on the film as well. Yeah.
There was another question. Okay, you know what? I'm up there in the balcony. Go ahead. Oh, no, sorry. We're going to go to the balcony, and I'll get to you next, I promise. Go ahead, yeah.
So when Claudio put on his wig at the end, what was the significance?
Right, okay, the significance of the wig at the end.
Yeah. I wish I had like a really concrete and straight answer to that. That was not in the script, actually. It was an idea that appeared just days from the shooting. Before the shooting, it was an idea from my editor, who's a longtime collaborator and good friend. And when we were really not sure about doing it. We even thought of shooting it both ways, with and without wig. But I think it made sense because the wig is horrible. We chose a horrible wig, and it looks awful on him. And I mean, I don't want to be mean, but many of the extras, the makeup, we wanted them to look awful, everybody to look awful. And it's about these people who are becoming more and more monsters as they get deeper into 1975 and 1976, when the full horror unfolded, so to say. So that's about it, yes.
Thank you. Okay. That was okay. Go ahead, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you wanna?
Yeah. No. So, to repeat the question, sorry, I already forgot it. I'm very sorry.
No, the gentleman asked if there was if there was a civilian complicity related to people's disappearances, besides of what. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Again, through the historical research about the role of the civilian society through the 70s, I discovered by reading a lot of cases of common murders and common crimes that were hidden in the network, in the context of hundreds or thousands of bodies appearing either in the river or in the desert or in places, and people not finding about that because people would think that it was a political related crime, and so it was something people wouldn't dare finding about. So yes, there is a reality behind that. Then again, to me, what the crime that happens in the movie, it's in the end it's an absolute political crime. It's not just a random killing. Yeah.
Sobre dos cosas importantes, cómo los chicos jóvenes cineastas cuentan la historia. Cómo los chicos cuentan la historia de estos países, pero no aparece ni siquiera un militar en la historia. Y eso me parece interesante, cómo él cuenta la historia. Y lo otro es que efectivamente la impunidad es un tema importantísimo en nuestra historia, porque ha habido mucha impunidad y que se ha ido elaborando con el tiempo, descubriendo estos cómplices pasivos de los crímenes, ¿no?
So there are two things I want to mention. The first one is how young filmmakers are able now to tell this story without really showing one person from the military. Also, I wanted to say and comment about impunity. We saw many cases that were not punished, and there has been an evolution of this as well.
All right, I know you had a question. Go ahead, and then I'll move over to this side of the room. Go ahead. Yeah. No.
It hasn't been shown yet, so we're very much looking forward to what we'll get, what kind of reactions we're going to get. I can tell you already, since you mentioned that there's still a degree of impunity, that while we were shooting in Argentina, there was, after more than 40 years, the disappearance of a young boy named Santiago Maldonado while we were shooting, and it was a very present case in the set. We would comment about this, and then it had a kind of an effect on certain days of work in the crew and the cast, because it was very surreal to be shooting the story of a young man's disappearance while this was happening again in the far-right government that we have right now in Argentina.
Yeah. A question over there. Go ahead. I'll get to you.
Sure. The school dance is actually it's an adaptation from an opera. It's French Baroque opera by Jean-Philippe Rameau. It's called Les Ânes Galantes, which means something like the gentle Indians or something like that. And I came through that. I came across that material in YouTube actually, and I like the opera a lot because it reflects the 17th century perspective on what the Americas were, from a French composer's perspective from that time. And it's super dull and super, of course, colonization idea of this sort of almost monkey people that were there. And I thought it was very funny that this right-wing school teacher would want to work with that material with young boys, because there's a lot of when I went to school as a kid, you would still have that perspective on Aboriginal people and then the overall history of the country, that perspective of not being very proud of tradition or our own history. Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Right. So in the opening scene, you had the hippie make reference to the Nazis, and why you put that in?
Because what happened in Argentina through the 70s is not so distant from what happened in Nazi Germany. There was a genocide, and it was very much something that everybody knew about. Nobody would comment. So that's why we put that dialogue there. Yeah.
Yes, a question from the gentleman there. Yeah. I see. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So it's about that comment where there's the young people, and the guy gets into the car with them, and I think the idea that we take back is that he disappeared as well. Do you want to talk about that scene?
Sure. I mean, it's at the point where the movie is starting to wrap up, and I think it's very interesting that even though you didn't see nobody disappeared or killed, you got that idea because that was exactly what we wanted to put out there, but without being, too much too forward about it, too explicit about it. So it's part of the many layers of complicities that are happening in the film, and the teenagers are just like another layer. We needed to get everybody on board these different layers of complicity with horror. So the kids are just one more layer of that system, so to say. Yeah.
Thank you, Benjamin. A question over here. Go ahead.
Well, the house, actually, later on you see that both Claudio and the guy, his friend go inside, and well, it had already started, even though there was not yet a military regime, there were already this kind of violent procedures and disappearances, and actually the on my father's side family, his house when he was a teenager was burned by a paramilitary commando, and my father's family had to fly from to exile for almost 10 years. So, and that was in 1975. So that scene in particular is very much inspired by real actual facts, and it was looted by neighbors afterwards, their house, just as you see in the very first image in the movie. So that's the most accurate thing that you see in the movie, really. Yeah.
A question here at the front. Go ahead. Right. Right. So the question, yeah, the comment is about how even though there you don't actually see any actual military people in the film, the scene with the party when the boy gets into a car and never comes back, that's actually how it happened. Like some people, you go to the store and then just never end up going, never seen again, and just so even though there wasn't that military presence, you still had that in other ways, and just how intentional that was.
It was intentional from the point that that, as you very well mentioned, that was the way to create terror among people. That suddenly someone's gone and you are clueless about what happened. So that's why this action sequence disappearances happens in the absolute dark. With apparently no witnesses, even though Alfredo later realized there were some witnesses. But yeah, I mean, we're trying to recreate this idea that things happen in the night without nobody knowing, even though then people were actually aware of things,
And the fact that the young man that disappears, at the beginning, ends up being close to somebody they know. Why was that important for the script?
It was a way to link these two stories, about this house that was about to be in a very evil way seized by this lawyer, and to link this sort of thriller first dramatic layer, and it was also funny that he was mixed up in the middle of all these stories, and that also the movie is set in a village where everything is sort of linked and mixed up. That's why we didn't set the movie in a major city, because how that goes, infierno grande, pueblo chico, infierno grande, yeah.
Small town, big hell. I guess I was. Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Right. So the question is about the eclipse. It was happening. No one really commented on it, but everyone was seeing it. If you could comment on that.
Yeah, I guess it's a very obvious metaphor in the middle of the film about some things becoming red. It's almost too obvious, but then again, we thought it was sort of beautiful, like a beautiful moment also, even though it's about people being in the middle of something and not wanting to acknowledge and or comment, as you say, about it. But I don't know. Maybe in another film it would be too obvious. We thought it was right in this sort of thriller genre comedy or something to put that in the middle with the music, sort of a breather in the middle of when you're about to get to the second half of the movie. I'm not sure why there is an eclipse in the movie. Yeah.
We have time for a couple of more questions. Yeah, the gentleman here.
Evolution of the conversation in Argentina about this period over time, and where Argentina is now, and how you feel the movie is going to be received. Is it
Right. So is like the very difficult past in Argentina still contentious? How do you think the film will be received?
That's a really good question. Actually, I think we're currently going backwards. I think at some point we reach a certain almost a certain consensus, as in most of the military perpetrators of the genocide went to prison and were trialed, and at this point we see a very worrying growth of people who are starting to question the prior certainty that these trials and these people who are in jail should be there. And there's also all sorts of links. You can hear comments as it's actually our current president said that human rights are a curro. I wouldn't know how to translate that word. A curro would be like a heist, something like something stupid to spend money in or corrupt, So we're going backwards. So I think that's where the pertinence of this film relies, on. I hope it does something. I hope it helps to nourish the conversation and the dialogue and the debate about the 70s, because as Alfredo very well said earlier, we don't want things to happen again. So that's why we have to exert to move our memory constantly. Yeah.
In Chile now, they are liberating these men, the justice. They are leaving them in liberty after 5 or 6 years in prison. So if you see all our countries are now with right-wing presidents or governments, so that's going. We must be aware of that.
Time for a last question. There at the back, go ahead.
Muchas gracias.
So the comment is he loves the film. He's seen a lot of films about military dictatorships, and that the way that you show it is unique, with sin violencia, dicho, ¿no? Sí, without like the same amount of violence that we often see, and that he's an excellent storyteller, which I absolutely agree with. I think the film is wonderful. I'm so pleased we were able to show it here.
Thanks a lot.
Gracias.
Gracias,
Thank you very
Alfredo.
much. Thank you.
And they're going to San Sebastian competition right after Tiff. So yeah, we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for staying. Thanks a lot.